G'day guys, so today we are going to be talking about how to perform a safety bar squat. Really good piece of equipment if you have poor shoulder mobility, so the ability to get back and into this position here. However, that being said, because we can't get our arms back and nice and secure, it does open us up for a bit of vulnerability when it comes to executing the lift at the bottom part with our shoulder blades, and also creating tension through our midsection. So let's dive straight into the exercise itself. Normally I would suggest that you, when you disc rack, you start up front, take a couple steps back, set yourself up, then up and down. But as you can see in this, I'm going to come forward. The reason why I would rather you start forward, come back, is because of the fact that when you are fatigued, it's going to be a lot easier to find the hooks when you're coming forward and looking at them, rather than trying to feel and walk backwards. And I'm probably going to make a meal of that in just a minute. So, how do we want this to set up now? A lot of people like to use a pad with this. As you can see, it's quite heavily padded, but oddly enough, you don't need to use a pad for this. It's no different to if you were to have a barbell on your back. I would probably suggest that if you normally squat without a pad, I'd keep that up. And the reason being is because we desensitize after about a month of normal or with barbell training on the back of our or sitting on our scapula or in our rhomboids, in the rear delts. Anyway, up on there, on our traps is what I'm getting at. There we go. After about a month, we desensitize to that pain. If you're currently experiencing that pain, then you've got two options. Obviously, ride it out for a month and it should be okay. Or number two is use the pad. I'm well and truly past that stage, so I'm not going to use the pad today. All right, so coming in, what we're going to do is very much similar to our normal setup with our squat, and however you'll see that instead of reaching back and putting your arms up on here, which potentially you could do, we have these handles here which are going to make us nice, or which is what we're going to use to make us stable. Now you can see that I'm already playing around with this rubber piece of matting, and the reason I'm doing that is because I actually have poor ankle mobility and flexibility. Oh, there we go. And so what happens is that because I can't get the full range of motion with my feet, I'll get down to a certain point and potentially my heels will lift off the ground. So I use this to chock up my heels to make sure that I'm getting all that weight through the heel and through my 3 points of contact, down and up. Now, that being said, how do we set up our feet for this position, this particular exercise? Well, we're actually going to come in a little bit narrower. A lot of people like to come out nice and wide. This exercise is going to very much target our quads, because the safety bar squat very much stimulates us as a high bar squat and also potentially a front squat, and it really targets our quadriceps. So we're going to use this to build out our quads and also probably get a lot taller in our squat pattern. So remember, with the squat pattern, it is the art of taking your body, putting it between the legs and then coming back up again. So how do we want to set up our feet? Well, we want to create 3 points of contact. The 3 points of contact are, if you jump up onto your tippy toes, you will feel the bones that run in line with your big toe and your pinky toe. That's point 1 and 2. Point 1 is in line with the big toe. Point 2 in line with the pinky toe. Number 3 is if you rock back onto your heels, you're going to feel point 3 of the ball of your feet, okay? And that is where we want to be for our 3 points of contact. Next, what we want to do is create external rotation or torque through the hip, because that will create stability. Now let's talk about stability. Whenever we do an exercise, we want to create stability, tension. We want to then execute the lift to perfection. So first rep looks exactly like the last rep, and then we want to track performance. And that's actually an acronym called STEP. So the way we create tension through our or stability through our body is that the working joints here are obviously our knees, but they're pretty stable. It's our hips that we want to pay particular attention to, and also our midsection, obviously, so that when we're coming up we don't crumple over, and the way we can control our midsection is through our lats, but we'll talk more about that because that follows into what we're going to do with our arms. Now, back to the hips and our 3 points of contact. Our feet control what our bum does because external rotation is this particular movement there. So if we can create external torque through our hips like this, okay, by simply pushing our knees out and keeping our 3 points of contact. So we want to think that those 3 points of contact have been cemented into the ground. So 1 and 2 and 3. We create external rotation by screwing our feet into the ground and placing the weight as if we're blowing out the sides of our shoes. And our knees are going to go out like that. You'll feel your backside come on, and that is how we create stability through our hips, right? We want to keep that on at all times. Now, what we need to realize, a really poor cue is when people say, you should sit down, okay? Sure, you need to break at the hips. So breaking at the hips is this motion here. However, what we need to realize is that, again, the squat and the art of the squat is the ability to take our torso, put it between our feet and come back up again. Okay, so in order to do that, I want you to think of this cue, and that cue is to push your knees out like a ballerina. So instead of coming back like a deadlift, right, and hinging, so this is a hinge pattern here, okay, I want you to think about pushing your knees out like a ballerina. So when you go down, you're going to screw your feet in, your knees are going to go out, and you can see already that my knees are coming out, and it's creating tall shins, right? And that'll play really well into when we're in the bottom portion of the squat, the ability to drive back out. Think of your legs or your feet as the foundation, and if your foundation is on the piss, okay, and it's wonky, then when you drive up, there's more likely to be error on the way up. But if you're nice and strong, stable, and you have a really good grounding foundation and nice tall shins, you're going to drive all the force into the floor and come back up as a result, okay? So, again, 3 points of contact, knees are going to go out, and we're going to push our knees out like so, okay, like a ballerina does. Now, you may need to move your feet around a little bit. You could even potentially take your feet and put them tilt them slightly out. Okay, that'll help with external rotation and stability through the hips. However, I do suggest placing a greater emphasis on the 3 points of contact over maybe standing like this. Okay, you see a lot of people squat like this without that tension through their feet. So I strongly suggest that you create your 3 points of contact. Once you've got those, your knees are going to come out, sit down nice and low, drive up nice and tall. Okay, you should probably warm up before you do this as well. So let's now go into, so that's what we're going to do with our feet and our lower body. Let's talk about what we're going to do with our upper body because of the positioning of these handles here. So we're going to come in under. Now, normally with our normal barbell squats, we're going to place our hands at the back here, and as a result, we'll pull our shoulder blades back and down using the barbell like so. However, obviously, potentially the reason why we're using this is we may have a bung shoulder for whatever reason. We heard it on a bench press or a shoulder press, something like that, and we can't quite get our arms back here. So what are we going to do here? Well, our lats are still at play. We can still pull our shoulder blades back and down, and we're aiming to hold these handles here and pull them down next to ourselves so that we're nice and strong through those lats. We don't want these arms rising up too high. We want to make sure that we're pulling our shoulder blades back and down, very much like any squat pattern. So from here, shoulder blades are going to be locked in, pulling back and down. We're going to take a big deep breath in and think about that we have a belt around our stomach. We're trying to blow that belt off. So we're going to brace. Another cue for this bracing is that I'm going to punch in the stomach, and you're going to brace for that. So again, screw our feet in, shoulder blades back and down, big deep breath in and brace. When you're ready, we're going to push it a slightly break at the hips, and then knees are going to go out. So again, screw in, knees are out, shoulder blades back and down, big deep breath in, break at the hips, and knees go out. And drive up tall. Now you can see how I fell forward just a slight bit there, so we're going to go again. Shoulder blades back and down, knees go out. And we're going to try and stay up as tall as possible. Now when I do this exercise, I am controlling my descent through my quads, and I can also pause at the bottom, drive back up. All right, that ability to pause at the bottom and drive back up is all created because of the stability that you have through your hips, okay? If you're finding that you can't do that, then we need to work on stability. Whew. Gas. But team, that there is how you should go about using the safety bar for your squats.